Hey, what is up, guys? Josh back here again with you today for another one, and this one I'm doing here today is another whiskey review. This time a rye. Um, One of my favorites, the Bulleit uh, Rye. Their Frontier whiskey kind of embossment there on the side of the bottle. 95 rye because they use 95% rye in their mash, and I believe it is 5% malted barley. So pretty much almost a 100% rye mash bill in this particular whiskey. This is part of their kind of lineup. I believe they have the 10-year-old Bulleit, uh, whiskey distillery has their 10-year-old Bulleit. Their orange label. This one's the green label. Their orange label um, bourbon, which is a good bourbon. I actually did a review for that one in particular, though the video messed up somehow and I wasn't able to keep it, so I might have to revisit that one at a later time to go ahead and get that as part of the number of whiskeys I'm kind of trying and doing so on this channel in addition to all the craft beers and everything like that too. But this is again one of my favorite rye whiskeys. I believe it gets a really high rating on all of the whiskey review sites that you might see, spirit review sites and everything like that. So let's go ahead and uncork this one because it has the cork, and give it a little pour, like a little small glass here, and see what we can come up with this particular one, because I have tried it and everything like that, but doing these videos always kind of helps me personally pick out some different notes and everything like that in it. So with the color, as you can see, it's kind of a darkish kind of amber kind of color. A little bit of orange in there. I unfortunately have some bits of cork in there because that the cork that they use on it, at least this one in particular, was kind of flaking off every time I put it back in the bottle. It was kind of ripping pieces of it off and sending it into the whiskey. But we'll see what it does for the flavor. It shouldn't really do much. So let's go ahead and go for the aroma on it. And the aroma is floral. Think of flowers, things like that. Spicy because of all that rye. Getting a bit of apple, peach. Not really a whole lot of vanilla notes or citrus notes with this one. It's much more of a grassier kind of spicy aroma with it. Lots of oak, of course. Lots of woody notes. Almost sort of a almost kind of like a Andes, the Andes mints, the sort of chocolate pieces of little chocolate with the mint centers in them. That sort of not really chocolate, but mostly that sort of minty kind of, that particular mint kind of aroma I'm getting out of this from those Andes, those little chocolate mints. Maybe a little bit of like kind of like a black licorice kind of aroma too. Also, kind of maybe coming from I'm getting that maybe from that sort of herbal sort of kind of herbal sort of quality I'm sort of getting from the aroma on this. Let's go right into the flavor. Try to get past the cork. The flavor is really nice, especially if you like those really biting kind of spicy kind of whiskeys. Sometimes they can be biting because of just the lack of overall kind of flavors going on in it, and you're just getting a lot of the alcohol. This one is definitely coming from that grassy sort of rye grain spice, and it's really nice. It's a really nice grain sort of spice. Not like a grain spirit spiciness or anything like that, but it's a nice sort of aromatic sort of flavor. A good bit of oakiness, more of that sort of black licorice kind of flavor. Not a whole lot, so if you don't like black licorice, I wouldn't say to stay away from this particular whiskey, but there is a sort of black licorice kind of note going on in there. Just sort of a bittersweet kind of herbal sort of flavor. Again, not really any citrus or anything like that. Not really any caramel. It's a much sort of rustic, a much more rustic flavored whiskey. A lot of these ryes, rye in particular, is one of my favorite styles of whiskey. Definitely, I've had the Rittenhouse Rye, which I should maybe try to find another bottle. I haven't been able to see a bottle of that anywhere recently, but I have tried it. I think that was 100 proof. That one I had a while back. Had that one. I believe the George Dickel Rye maybe. I've had a few of them. I've had way more bourbons than rye, but the style is one of my favorites. It's apparently an older style of whiskey, so it's going to have, again, a more rustic kind of character to it, a bit more of a rougher around the edges in a good way kind of element to it. Yeah, maybe a little bit of cinnamon in there as well, but really just a very nice kind of rye spice that I'm getting from this bit of again, that sort of minty, not so much minty in the flavor as in the aroma, but a more kind of herbal, spicy kind of whiskey with a little bit of sweetness on the back. So it's not too not too much, but definitely a really good rye. One that's a favorite of mine as a go-to rye that's not too bad. I got this bottle, which is not your standard fifth size, standard whiskey bottle size, for about $26. So for under the $30 mark, it is a really, really great rye whiskey from the Bulleit distillery with the green label.